Alrighty, today I want to dive straight into the technical analysis aspect of both of my trades today. I took both sells and then turned those sells into buys based off of a certain onset of confluences that I was seeing play out today. I'm going to break that down for you guys in detail. So first off, I want to give a shout out to Jordan. Jordan is one of the CYPRX OGs. He's been in this community for well over 2 years now. And he just had, I don't know if this is his first payout, but he definitely just had a payout. And I want to read his comment just to give you guys a little bit of motivation. There is an interview with Jordan inside the CyberX Discord in the video education section. I interviewed him and Justin maybe now, probably a year ago. So it's just great to see his steady pace, his consistency, and his discipline pay off. So Jordan said yesterday at 6:10 p.m. after requesting a top step payout of around $2,000. He said it's been a long time coming for this payout. I understood each and every detail I performed. I got to thank my fellow students, myself, and institutional scalper for their ceaseless tenacity and mentoring. They brought real knowledge, which is rare in the trading space, and authentic characters. I want everyone to know that if you never give up and through all the tests and fires, keep that undenying fever to succeed. Nothing can hold you back, not one thing. Do not let the vision falter, and you can become your own sovereign beings. The power is already in you. You just have to bring the fruits of knowledge to it and partake to manifest it. So shout out to you, Jordan, man. This was really great to see. I even had the pleasure of meeting you in person at the link up last year at the end of the year, which was really just phenomenal, man. So pat yourself on the back if you're listening to this or if you're listening to this as a recording, because this is just a perfect example of what's capable in this community if you pay attention to detail and you control your emotions along the way. I think that after you learn the technical analysis aspects of what we teach in this community, that is honestly the hardest thing is controlling thyself, controlling your emotions, not making irrational decisions, not over trading, not over analyzing, not over leveraging, right? Like SB1 just mentioned in the chat, having the ability that when you're not surely clear on price action for that day, understanding that you don't have to be a market participant and it's okay to take a step back and understand that some days aren't as clear as others, as not every day is the same. So first off, I took all of the trades today based off of course, I used the CyberX 2.0 content, but I want you guys primarily because a lot of you all, some of you guys are in the CyberX 2.0, some of you guys are not. I want you guys to understand each of you all, of course, are in the Discord. Each play that I took today, I utilized the 1, 2, 3 pattern based off of the sell delta held and buy delta held patterns, and then just using CyberX 2.0 logic and some of the confluences that I throw on top of the buy and sell delta held patterns. So I'll go over all of that. But where can you find this information again? Because we constantly have new people flooding into this community. You can come over to the Discord first to get access to the deltas and the dark pools for MNQ and NQ. I use the NQ dark pools. So those are the green and red lines. And then for the deltas, I use MNQ. And I want to show you guys how accurate these are. This was given to you all Monday, March 2nd at 3:53 p.m. So Scalper, as always, trying to update you guys before the moves play out. And then in regards to the Delta Education, how to read and look for moves and plays off of these levels, you have the Delta Education PDF section. And then in the video education section, you also have an entire playlist, a private playlist on Scalper's YouTube that you guys can go watch, and it teaches you about the setups. All right. In a nutshell, obviously, of course, if you want a little bit more in depth, you guys can go and join the CyberX Advanced Course program. But for anybody that's in the Discord that's new, you guys definitely have access as to how to read and analyze price action at and around these deltas and dark pools. They're very important because the vast majority of retail investors are operating in this space based off of lagging retail indicators. These insights give us an advantage because they tell us in the market where moves are going to happen from before they even happen. So really all that's left for us to do is wait for these patterns patiently to play out around these dark pools and then execute trades with proper risk management at and around these levels. All right. So today, I'm going to show you guys how I was able to do that using logic, using the dark pools and the deltas, and then just paying attention to detail. So first off, on the higher time frame, initially the reason why I had first taken this sell position on the 4 hour time frame and below, you guys can also see here this little tiny infograph, and this arrow here is where scalper sent these deltas out, just to show you guys that they were given to you all in advance and just how spot on accurate they are, as we have now seen a bullish reaction from the delta around the 24,400 psychological level. But nonetheless, the reason why I initially took the first sell on MNQ at the very onset of New York session was primarily because on the higher time frame, so doing a top down, we are bearish, right? Yesterday we saw a sell delta held pattern on the 4 hour time frame. Here you can see that. Here's that break of structure. Here's the manipulation of the high, year one, year two, right? And then price, collectively speaking, went to down to attack this low. All right. So just overall, on the higher time frame on the 4 hour, we are net bearish. Also, what I'm noticing is that on the 4 hour time frame, we are operating below the triple moving average, which was just another confluence as to why I was taking initial sells today. Dropping down to the lower time frames, the hourly and below. Okay, when New York session got past price action today, just taking a look at previous sessions, I try to teach you guys that I always do this. Always, always, always pay attention to what previous sessions did. So the hourly for me wasn't too clear. I dropped down to the 15-minute time frame, and I noticed that London session, as you can see here, this is the New York session. London session bought right at the bottom of this delta. And this delta was the 24,356 and the 24443. Now, when New York session got past price action, so you can see here is the New York session open, indicated by this vertical blue line. Collectively speaking, price was at a premium from where London session was buying. And we have to understand that the daily low or the daily high usually tends to get made during Asia or London session. So I was thinking to myself during New York, well, we're starting to see the onset of a buy delta held pattern, and we started to see that formulate during London session. So here, looking at price action prior to the New York session, this whole entire bearish leg, what can we see? We can see structure. Let's measure out that structure. We see price come down into the bottom of a delta. We see buyers make an attempt to defend. They fail. Notice how price action is still on the 15-minute time frame trailing below the moving averages. We create a lower high, and price continues to trail lower. Then during the bottom half of the London session, we see a buy delta held pattern. We see a low manipulated, and we see buyers defend the bottom of this delta with enough momentum to break not only one previous structure high, but two previous structure highs. And that was coming into the New York session. So that to me signaled that there is buyer's intent down here at the London session low. So simply all I did to catch this move today was I annotated that overall we're bearish. However, on the daily time frame, or for the daily price action, considering where New York session had sold from before, which was all the way up here in this area, if we're bearish on the 4-hour time frame, mind you, again, this is that 4-hour leg from this high all the way down now to this low, what's most likely taking shape? New York session's not stupid. They're not going to sell from a low. What are they going to do? They're going to push price down into a discount, buy, push price up, and then make an attempt to continue to sell from a premium at where they were selling from during yesterday's New York session, or maybe where Asia session sold from, or maybe now where London session sold from, right? So that was kind of my logic for today. I might be getting a little bit too ahead of myself. That's why I took the buys. So why did I take the sells? Again, looking at where London session had bought from and where New York session got past price action here. Okay. You can see this area here where New York session got past price when the session opened, comparative to where London session down here was buying from, was collectively speaking at a premium. And so if they are going to push price up into these highs to then take sells, what are they most likely going to do? They're going to manipulate London session lows, push price action back down into the bottom of the delta, then buy up price, pushing it up into a high, and then take sells. And I constantly talk about this in the CYPRX 2.0 content, these manipulative tactics. And then when you apply logic, it becomes relatively simple to understand the market maker's tactics. So jumping down to now the 1 minute time frame. Here are my two positions for today, and you can see how correlated they are with the deltas. So at the onset of New York session, as I mentioned, London session bought down here at the bottom of this delta. And when New York session got past price, we were at a premium. So I marked this area off as the London session lows and said to myself, as long as price can remain above this level, we're likely going to push back to the higher time frame premium, which on the 4-hour time frame was yesterday's New York session and Asia session highs. So I marked that area off, extended it over to the right-hand side. That was my initial bearish target for this move. So once price action started to show its hand after the New York session opened, we see a lot of volume and volatility pick up. But notice here how buyers are unable to push higher after showing some intent. Think about it in terms of effort versus result, always. So here at the very beginning, I'd say the first 10 to 15 minutes of New York session is in this area. And what can we see? We see a massive intent by buyers to push price action higher. However, sellers immediately trap buyers at highs and engulf all of the previous bullish price action, pushing price back down to the bottom of this delta. Now, think about it again in terms of effort versus result. If the buyers in this bullish leg were serious and they were able to defend this low, what would have happened next in these two bullish candlesticks? Can somebody tell me?
Price action would have engulfed the previous move, bearish
Exactly,
move.
right? Great job, Eric. There's no reason to overthink it. After we saw the buy base defended, i.e. the bottom of this delta and the bottom of this previous bullish move that engulfed all this bearish price action, if the buyers that are in this area were strong enough to defend, overpower sellers, what would have happened? Think logically, we would have seen a new leg higher and markets would have created a new higher high. That did not happen. And for the first time, sellers officially showed their intent. They again trapped buyers at the top of this delta and they engulfed price for a second time, creating a lower low, lower high, lower low formation. That is when I said to myself, okay, sellers are still in control of this price action. I'm not going to chase the market structure, and I want a little bit more confirmation before I take a sell position down into the London session lows. Because for me, on the 1 minute time frame, we had not had a triple moving average crossover yet. So even though right here in this area, we are printing bearish price action, a low, a lower high, and now a new low, you can see behind the price action, we had not had a triple moving average crossover yet. It wasn't until right here that we see for the first time the triple moving averages were previously acting as a support, and then here they start to act as a resistance. That is then when I said to myself, okay, now we have a nice sell delta held pattern. Here's a lower high in comparison to the previous one. Here's a previous low that gets violated with bearish momentum. All that was left for me to do to take this trade, considering that again, I was eyeing this London session low before buyers really initially picked up. That was my thesis from today, is that if they're going to buy, they're going to buy from where London session bought from, or at least close to it. So when we saw this sell delta held pattern, a high or a failure to break a previous high, bearish break beneath a previous support, here was the triple moving average crossover right there, which gave me the confidence to say, okay, now momentum has shifted to the downside. All that was left for me to do was take my fib from the 1 down to the 2 and wait for price action to come back up into that 79% sweet spot that I personally like to target to take positions. Once we saw that, Zooming in here, again, think in terms of effort versus result. I constantly say this now to you guys because it makes so much sense. When you see this bullish price action, again, think about it too. Let's look at where we're at. We are now operating underneath of bearish price action. So we have lower high, lower low, lower high, and now a new low. We're also operating underneath of a triple moving average, and we are also operating underneath of a bullish delta or a buy delta. Okay. Look at all of the buyers in these candlesticks. So here you have a buyer. Here you have buying activity. And here you have buying activity. Effort versus result. Every single time you see effort by buyers, can someone tell me a couple of things? Just looking at this price action, let's talk about it together instead of me always explaining it to you guys, beating a dead horse. What's one thing that you notice about the effort from these buyers here? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attempts by buyers. And what never happened? Somebody give me one thing.
They weren't strong enough to break
Unfortunately,
structure.
Candle
Aggression.
never closes.
Okay, good job. What I'm hearing is first, we never have a bullish break above the triple moving average. So every single time you see aggression by buyers, it's never aggressive enough to break above the triple moving average. That's one confluence, right? As to how we can see without volume, just by looking at the candlesticks, that the intent by buyers, the effort is being engulfed, i.e., the result is that sellers are still in control, right? Because if these buyers were strong enough, every single previous bearish move would have been engulfed, and we would have turned the bottom of this delta into support, and we would have also turned the previous triple moving average break into support as well. So here's a failed attempt by buyers. They fail to break higher, and sellers completely engulfed that bullish momentum. The second thing I'm noticing is that, again, look at the bearish candlesticks. Even though these bullish candlesticks are pushing above the bearish volume, sellers are literally just trapping them and defending. Right now, I'd say, well, at this point in time, they were defending the middle of this delta, right? You can see it. Every single time buyers pushed up into this high, they just came straight back down. Sellers matched the momentum every single time. We're not seeing any structural breaks to the upside. 1, 2, 3 times it happened after all of this bearish price action took place and a triple moving average crossover. Couple that on top of, if we take the fib again from the 1 down to the 2, price was literally tapping straight into multiple times the 79% retracement. 1, 2, 3 times. So all that was really left for me to do for this position is I set a sell stop. I set a sell stop right beneath this bearish candlestick. As soon as that was executed, I dragged my stop loss nice and tight right above the high. My entry for the first sell position here was at the 24495. I shared that screenshot with you guys in the chat, and I immediately took profit out of this trade as soon as we came into the London session lows. Right? So it was a real quick, clean scalp, sell delta held pattern, paying attention to the effort, not getting manipulated by the bullish price action that we see, thinking that price is going to go higher, and really paying attention to what the market is telling us. Right? If this were to happen, then what would happen next? Constantly think of that in your head, right? Think of the markets always as this battle between buyers and sellers, and always go with who's winning that battle in the moment, not who you think is going to win the battle, right? So that was the first initial sell position. Then when we come down into the London session lows, now let's pay attention to the reaction. Because again, think about it. Remember when I tell you guys, if you're looking to buy or if you're looking to sell, pay attention to the price action that came into your area of interest, because you're going to see structure. So here's the London session lows identified by this horizontal white or gray box, however you see it. That's the London session low. And then also this horizontal box in the background is the delta. So you can see the reaction from the bottom of this delta and from London session low. And then looking at structure coming into this level, here we see a low, lower high. Remember, price is underneath of the EMAs. Price comes down into the top of the delta. We see buyers make an attempt to absorb sellers. They fail miserably. This is one little tiny bullish blip. So there's a little bit of effort by buyers. They got trapped. Sellers completely engulfed them, created a new low in the market. Remember, this is all structure that we're starting to track. We see another attempt by buyers right here. Boom, bullish candlestick. But where's the effort at? There's no effort that engulfs all of the previous bearish pressure. So again, we see another lower high, drops straight down and creates another structure point. One last attempt by buyers here. Sellers then tested the strength of those buyers. And then boom, finally for the first time, we see enough bullish momentum to completely engulf not only one, but two previous bearish lower highs. Then after that, we start to see a previous resistance turn into support and price continues higher. Now, I wanted to enter on this initial pullback because I thought this was going to be the move, but why can someone tell me they think why I didn't enter into this initial position here? This initial pullback. Can anybody tell me?
Is it because of
the
the
retest.
I was gonna say, is it because of the doji candlestick that shows kind of indecision in the market or where price action wants to go?
No, not necessarily.
You wanted confirmation?
I wanted a
Triple
little
moving average and not crossed.
Very good, great job. So the 50 EMA had not been crossed yet. So with this initial pullback here, okay, because let's go back a little bit in time. This is what the initial move looked like, okay? So what I was thinking to myself is this is a great little tiny bullish move. This is starting to show us that buyers are definitely interested in buying at this level, but we never had a break of the 50 EMA. So my thought process was, okay, as long as price is below this 50 EMA, sellers are still relatively speaking in control. I want to see buyers break above this high, which would likely coexist with the bullish push above the 50 EMA. That would give me confirmation that buyers are now back in control. Another thing you'll notice, that's the first thing. I don't think any of you guys spotted this, and maybe it's because you're not paying attention to the deltas, but look at the deltas. So yes, we have a smooth transition through the delta, but we did not break back above it. We need to see bullish intent or buyers engulf all the sellers that push price action to the bottom of a delta before we assume that buyers are going to be back in control. So the first thing I was looking for was a break above the triple EMAs. We did not get that yet. That's why I didn't enter in on this pullback. The second thing I was looking for was for all the sell volume that engulfed or smoothly positioned itself or pushed through the buy delta to be engulfed as well. We didn't see that yet either. So I didn't enter yet, and I waited patiently. Sure enough, a couple candlesticks later, we finally see the intent by buyers. Boom. They come back, they retest the 50 EMA, and we see a smooth engulfment of all the lower highs that push price action through the buy delta. This to me is now showing buyers' intent. Buyers are 110% interested at buying at this area of interest, which is the London session low from yesterday's London session, or here in the United States, yesterday's London session. For you guys overseas, just London session. Okay. So after that, all that was left for me to do was pay attention to the base, mark off the 1, 2, 3 pattern, because now we're starting to see a buy delta held. Here's your 1 or your bullish reaction. Here's your 2 or your break of structure. You could have even put your 2 right here, regardless. And then wait for a pullback into a discounted position, taking your fib from the 1 to the top of the delta and just waiting for price to come back down into a 62 to 79% discount. Once price started to retrace, here we have a 50% retracement. You could have entered slightly aggressive there. It would have been a little bit of an early entry, but we did tap back into the 50%. I'm patient enough to wait for at least a 62% discount. As price continues, boom, we finally get a reaction from the 62% discount. This is when I started to place buy stops above bearish candlesticks.
This is 70.
As price pulls back one last time, that is when we got the reaction from the 79% discount. That to me is my green light. Why? Because it gives me the best risk to reward ratio. Okay. So my buy stop originally was all the way up here. Once price started its pullback, and every single time we printed a new bearish candlestick, I constantly dropped it lower and lower. Finally, this was the last area of interest that my buy stop was at. Once price tapped into the 79% retracement, you can see a bullish reaction. As soon as my buy stop was hit, I dragged my stop loss nice and tight beneath the previous low and right beneath the delta. And then it was off to the races. Beautiful buy delta held setup, 1, 2, 3 pattern. If we go into the delta PDF, look at this PDF right here, right? It is the same exact pattern in this PDF. As price comes down, we see a break of structure. You're waiting for a pullback after price action has smoothly transitioned through the buy delta, and you're waiting for price to come back down into a discount, right? This is the same exact pattern here, and that was all she wrote. This was a phenomenal entry. I saw some of you guys as well take this same exact trade in the chat, so that's really great to see. But outside of that, that is how I made 12 grand today from top down.